Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. So what we're gonna do as promised is that we are going to create a pod and we are going to see what actually happens on the back end in terms of volumes. So I'm just gonna write a simple command over here. It's part of your GitHub document as well, so you can refer that if you need it. kubectl, run nginx-cli. So I'm going to use nginx as my image, and I'm going to use my image over here. beyondcloudai / nginx :v1. And here with this one, I'm going to give - port as 80 and - restart as never. So I have the pod created, so let's just give it like a couple of seconds and you can see that the pod is running already. Let's do a description about this pod with the kubectl describe about this pod. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. So now we know about the events over here, events, updates, whatever happens with the pod. We know about the all the other things which we're not going to talk about it right now. The thing which I want to talk about is this one over here. It says volume : the volume name over here. So this is the name of the volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to note this down over here. So I'm going to do a cat. So volume, just going to do cat ABC, right? So volume name is equal to the name of the volume. So this is what is defined there as a volume name. So we're gonna use this one. And let's see that it is a projected type, as in like volume that contains injected data from multiple sources. And you can see the token expiry seconds over here, config map. So this is about the configuration map volume. Okay, so that's what I can understand from here, because this is some Kube root CA is being exposed over here. I'm noting it down anywhere. There's no optional over here. Downward API is true. So this is some advanced options we will talk later about. Now, these are conditions. We can ignore them. You can see the mounts over here, as you can see. So what is getting mounted? This is the location where run secret Kubernetes IO service account. So this is basically your mount, which is going to be on your container. And where it is mounting from, it is mounting from this volume. So Kube API access DPV KB. So this is the volume name, right? So you can see that. This is the one which is getting mounted. And what permission it has, like access mode it says read only. So which means that it can only read from this. It cannot write on this data. Let's just verify this. Yeah. So let's just do the verification. Now, firstly, I want to see where this is on the pod. So let's open this pod and let's just kubectl exec -it, the pod name. I'm sorry, the pod name, bash. So I'm in the pod. Now let's do a dff-h. I can see multiple storage volumes over here, but what I'm interested is about this particular mount over here. So if you just need to see if this mount is available, you can see that it's over here. It's in /run secrets Kubernetes IO and service account. So if I do a CD of the directory, I can actually go inside that. It doesn't say where, but it is a link. Actually, you will see the run as a link to where. So that's why the folder is working. And what are the contents of this? Is a very good question. So the contents of this is token, namespace, and CA cert. These are some secret values. And this needs to be exposed to your container which it is running, because it can certify this using the CA cert, because it can connect. Now, when I touch a file over here, it cannot write anything because it's a read-only file system, because it says RO over here. So that is clear that I cannot write anything on this, right? So now we understood that we can see this. Okay, we will come back to this later. So let's exit the pod. Now, where this file system or this volume is located on my system? That's the next question, right on my host. So to do that, you need to first see where this Nginx is running. This pod is running. Nginx pod is running at worker 2. So it will be on worker 2. If you try to check it over here, you may not find it because this is manager 1. Management 1 will not be having that content which we have seen right there. So it will be there only where the pod is running. So let's go to worker 1. So I'm sorry, worker 2, because that's where it is running over here, worker 2. So you can see. So I'm in the worker 2 right now. So let me increase the font size a little bit so that you can see. There you go. Awesome. So let's just work on understanding where this particular pod is located. Oh, so this particular volume is located. By default, everything about the Kubernetes will be in where lib kubelet pods. Okay, so anything about pods will be in where lib kubelet pods. Sorry. Now here you have 3 folders, right? So now as we have 3 folders over here, we need to choose one of this folder where the actual pod will be existing. Sorry about that, I got a call. Now that you have these 3 folders, one of this must be that pod which is running. But why we have 3 folders? Why we have 3 pods? That's the real question you should be asking. What are the other 2 pods which it is running over here, right? So to answer you this simple question, there are 2 ways to figure it out, right? As in when anything, you can actually check the logs. That's one way of figuring it out. And so for the second one, you can actually ask, the manager to give us some more detail about the pod name. So for example, I can run this command, which is again on your GitHub page. So this one tells you, or asks you get information about this Nginx CLI pod with an JSON output of metadata UID. So metadata will have the UID of it. So here in the description, you were able to see every detail except for the your pod ID. The pod user ID is missing over here. Unique ID, sorry, not user ID. Your pod's unique ID is missing, but you can see your containers ID and everything else. But what is missing is your pod's ID. So only way to get your pod's unique ID is using this command. And when you execute it, you're going to get that unique ID. Now, when you just compare this with this one over here, you can see actually what is that. So you can see that this is pretty much this pod which is running over here. This is one way of retrieving the pod information about your unique ID of your pod. And that's one way. Another way is there. It's basically going to your varlog container. So when you go to this varlog containers, you will actually see the Nginx container which it is running. But here you have the container ID, right? Here you don't have the pod ID over here. So what you have right now is the container ID. You can see this 51EEA1, right? Is same as 51EEA1. So this is your container ID, which is already displayed over here on your describe your pod. Okay. Describe pod has your container ID, but you don't have the pod ID. So the pod ID will be in varlog pods. You can also see this link which tells you about that, right? So this is a canonical link which is going in. I think it's a soft link which goes into this directory, and it goes to varlog pods and then default Nginx CLI, and then you can see that BDA91. So this is the same output as what you've got over here. So I've given you 2 different ways of figuring out what it is. So you need to know about this as a Kubernetes administrator to troubleshoot and get to the folders where actually the work happens on the back end. And that's where you can actually gather more information. So varlog pods, within that you have, again, 3 folders here. So as you can see that, what are these 2 other pods? It has the description over here. One for Fanal, which you have installed, and one for Kube proxy. So these are something which is required for you to run any pod on the remote system. So those are some default services of Kubernetes. So that's why it is named as a namespace over here is given as kube. That's the namespace, and this is the default namespace, which is the default over here. And then this is your unique ID of your pod, and within this, you will have the Nginx, the pod or the container which is running, and then the logs location. Now that you know the unique ID, you can go to var lib kubelet, and within the kubelet you can go to the folder which is called pods, and then you can give this pod name over there, and then get to the folder, and then you have multiple folders in this. Go to volumes. We are here for volumes, and then this is a protected folder. So here, when I do lsf and ltr, I can see the volume name. So this is the volume name, right? So you can see the volume name over here as well, because this is the home folder of this volume. And within that volume, you have those 3 files over here. So if I touch a file over here called A, I have read and write because I'm on the host system, and I have like 4 files right now. And I log in back into the Kubernetes exec, and then I go to that location, same location, and then I will find 4 files over here because I just created one. So now you know from the back end that by default, every every pod you're going to invoke, it's going to have this particular service exported as a volume, and it mounts by default. So it's not something which you have to do it manually, because it is an automated process, because it's a secret, so it needs to be there for trusting purpose, right? So that's all I want to show you on the first video, to show you around how this actually by default works. In terms of your file system, your actual file system is hosted here in the / folder, over here, and it is equal to the file system which is over here. So if you see the dir-h, right, you can actually see this file system over here. 11 GB used, 35 GB available, 23% is what you will see over here. So this is the overlay file system, which basically you will use this, but then it won't mount the same thing. You can also see the overlays over here where it is being used. So you can see the overlays here as well as part of this particular file system. So you can actually look at the container wise. You can grab the name of the container. You can just do this. You can do clear the screen, dir-h, grep off the container name, and you can see the overlay over there. So this is being exported as part of the root file system. You can see on your Docker space, container space. Okay, and you can also see this name as part of this as well. So this is also getting mounted through this as a temp file system over here. And as it is a temp file system, when you delete this pod, or the content inside this pod will also be lost. I'll show you that. So kubectl delete pod, name of the pod. And once you do that, as I'm in that folder, it's not getting deleted. As I come out of the folder, you can see that the BDA is gone now. You can see that don't have that folder anymore. So, so now you understand that how this default works and how the default file system is getting mounted. Don't worry much about the other things. I will cover that. I will give you live examples and get you the other things covered. But what I want to know is like complete understanding as an administrator, because this video is for administrators. So when you are an administrator, these are the things which you need to look out for and troubleshoot these items. So you need to know about the backend stuff. Other trainings doesn't cover the backend stuff. They just tell you about, oh, this is the volume and this is the how you need to mount it. But what happens to these backend information? Because this is how we survive. This is how we troubleshoot. This is how we work in a real-time situation in a production system. I have the experience, and I'm very happy to share it with you. Thank you again for your time and patience. I'll see you on the next video.